So welcome everyone. My name's Judith. I'm Head of Government Relations and Education and Chair of the BFC Colleges Council. Welcome again. Some of you may have heard this introduction on previous sessions, but just to explain that today's webinar is part of Graduate Preview Day. Each year, Graduate Preview allows industry professionals to access the portfolios from the graduating fashion talent across our top fashion and design courses. And that here at the BFC, we really want to foster those relationships between educators, graduates and the industry. The Graduate Preview website features the portfolios, and this link will be put in the chat of this call. As well as profiling the top talent to industry and beyond, the Graduate Preview also runs a series of events that support students with the tips and knowledge about how to take their next steps into the industry, whether it's insights on getting your first job or what you need to know in terms of advice on setting up a fashion business. We're here to share thoughts from top industry professionals on the do's and don'ts of entering the world of work. So I'm quite excited for this session because for the first time we're hosting colleagues of ours from the British Fashion Council. So we have on the call Katie, who's the Senior Business Development Manager here at the BFC, Julia, who's the Senior Business Development Executive, and Anna Orsini, who's a Strategic Consultant at the BFC, who are going to talk through BFC initiatives, the mentoring that we give to industry, the support that's available, and just the sort of benefits and insights of commercial industry. And Anna's going to share her thoughts on what it takes to start a fashion business and how to achieve sales in your fashion business. So it's a super interactive session. We welcome all your questions. If you can put them into the questions box. It would be lovely if you want to come on and ask a question live, but if you will bring you on camera, but if not, if you want to stay anonymous, just let me know when you ask the question. I'm happy to ask questions on your behalf. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleagues who are going to share more insights. So over to you, Katie and Julia. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith, for a lovely introduction. We're just going to share some slides. Lovely. Perfect. Yes, so welcome everybody. Really nice to hopefully meet some of you for some questions. So this is our presentation on cultivating industry. So just a very quick bit about the BFC. We kind of exist to strengthen British fashion in the global economy as a leader in responsible creative business. We do this through championing diversity, building and inviting the industry to actively participate in a network to accelerate a successful circular fashion economy. So that is our mission statement, and it kind of encompasses everything that we try to do, and particularly Julia and I in our team with working with the designers. A bit about our strategy. We have 3 pillars to our strategy. So one is supporting excellence in design, and that encompasses the scholarships, connecting designers with global audiences, and championing talent. So that is our Neogen initiative. It's our GQ and Vogue Fashion Fund initiative. And then it's the scholarships and the education program. We also then look at empowering growth, and that's much more about business growth. And so that's about access to finance, looking at shared resources across the industry. So between big industry players and companies like some of our patrons, down to the smaller designers who we support, a support network of business people, and mentoring, which we'll come on to later. And our other initiative, Fashion Trust, sits very much under that with a business focus. We then have the final pillar, which is communicating to activate positive change. And that's really about all the different ways in which we represent the industry. So we represent the needs of the industry to the government, and we engage everybody in the industry from the design room to the shop floor to try and get everybody kind of moving in the same direction. All of this is through our lens of the Institute of Positive Fashion. And the Institute of Positive Fashion is all about being catalysts for change in regards to sustainability and environment, people and diversity, and community and craftsmanship. So that's everything kind of goes through that lens. Thank you, Julia. I'm actually going to pass over to Julia now to go through what our team do.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you for having me. So who are we? We are the business development team at the BFC. What we do is we provide business support opportunities to designers in our ecosystem. So of course, our main goal is to facilitate a support network of external industry experts around designer businesses. And how do we do that? We mostly do that by sort of catching up at the beginning of the initiative year with all our designers and making sure we really discuss their business needs, objectives, and focuses for the year ahead. We do have constant touch points with them to make sure we are helping them the way they would like to be helped. And how do we do that? We mostly do that via mentoring, webinars, commercial and legal pro bono advice. The whole purpose of our program is to make sure we strengthen their business structure. We really talk to the designers to make sure they put an infrastructure in place around their creative talent. When do we do that? We follow what we call the initiative year, which for us runs from May to April. I have also included on this slide our fashion value chain, which I think gives an interesting idea of how we have organized the key areas of support that we would like to provide to designers. So as you can see here, we've got 6 macro areas of business, from business structure to product development, sales, manufacturing, finance, and marketing and comms. And they're all organized with some additional under subcategories that we try to tackle and discuss with our designers. Like Katie was saying a second ago, we also see the whole business development program through the lens of the Institute of Positive Fashion, and that's why we have put sort of an overarching theme at the bottom of our fashion value chain. So we also wanted to talk to you about some very early showcasing opportunities that designers can enjoy via the British Fashion Council. So the Digital Discovery Lab, in collaboration with Tony and Guy, is an immersive showcasing opportunity for new emerging brands that really operates at the intersection of different disciplines, from fashion to music, technology, art, photography, and performance. What is really important about this opportunity is that it's the way in which emerging designers can show on the digital schedule of London Fashion Week before meeting the actual criteria to apply to become a scheduled designer. For the Digital Discovery Lab, we really thank Tony and Guy because they provide successful candidates with a plethora of pro bono opportunities, from hairstyling to studio space and also promotional activity on their channels. On this slide, you can also read through some of the criteria, like being under 3 years in business when you apply, and that your collection should consist of ready-to-wear and accessories. Something else important to note about Digital Discovery Lab is that it really requires moving content from designers participating, because everything is on the digital LFW platform that we have just launched. At the bottom, you can also read through some key dates that could be of interest for you all. And then we move on to Neogen. So Neogen is a BFC initiative that supports the best emerging talent and really aims to build the next big global brands. It's also interesting to note that it is the most established designer development scheme globally, and designers that take part in Neogen are really identified by their creativity and strong design aesthetic. What do we offer via Neogen? We mostly offer 3 things. So it's financial grants, first of all, showcasing opportunities, and mentoring. Like we were saying before, we really think it's super important for emerging designers to develop critical business skills to really future-proof their businesses. We do that thanks to the invaluable help of our Fashion Business Network. Fashion Business Network is made of organizations and individuals who give their time and expertise on a pro bono basis to really make sure that designers develop their business infrastructure and skills. I have included some of the criteria to apply to be a Neogen designer. When you first apply for Neogen, you should be under 3 years in business, and you should also be able to demonstrate really the quality of your stockist or a proven direct-to-consumer sales channels. Just out of curiosity, we have included the list at the bottom of the current Neogen recipients, because we think it's helpful and inspirational for you to see the designers that we are currently working with under the Neogen umbrella. Over to you, Katie, now.
Thank you, Julia. So just to to continue with the kind of brief overview of the rest of our initiatives, we have the Vogue Fashion Fund, which is a much bigger fund. It was established in 2008, and the aim is to celebrate exceptional talent and empower businesses to play their part in positive growth. It's a large amount of money. It's one winner. And it really looks to kind of develop the business of the winner and really put a structure of mentoring and business support around them for the year that will take their business to the next level. This year particularly, we've really focused on excellence in creativity, positive development, and it was open to all gender collections, not just women's wear as it has been historically. And the winner was Bethany Williams. And you can see, you know, we've popped the judges below, so you can see the kind of panel that are judging these awards and that the designers are kind of speaking to when they're going through the selection process. Thank you. So the next initiative is the GQ Menswear Fund. Again, it's a really high level, a lot of money for one winner. The winner this year was Aluwalia. And again, it's about celebrating exceptional talent, looking at developing a business, and having this bespoke mentoring around the designer to help them grow to the next level. And if we go into Fashion Trust, please. Thank you. So Fashion Trust is the last initiative that we're going to talk about, and is kind of the fourth of our big four initiatives that we run. Fashion Trust is really a business case. As you remember, it sits under the kind of empowering growth part of our strategy. And so designers at a slightly more established stage of business usually will apply, making a very specific case around what part of their business or what project they want to work on and they want funding for. And they're awarded the funding based on that business case that they make. And then we work with them to help them do that. So some of them might have applied to develop their e-commerce, for example. So they will get a cash grant to do that. And they will also get lots of really bespoke and intensive mentoring to help them develop the part of the business that they want to develop. They have to report. So there's lots of kind of reporting around it and financial reporting. And they really, at the end of the year, can show the return on investment. And they, along with all the rest of our initiatives, they also get free legal support, which we'll kind of come on to in a minute about why that kind of business support around a fashion brand and emerging fashion brands is so important. And then we wanted to kind of put some key considerations for when you're thinking about starting a business. I guess, you know, lots of people graduating will get jobs working in other design studios or in other companies, which we think is great. But there are a few things, you know, basic checklist of some of the things that you will need to get in place if you decide to start your own company. So one of those is that you need to register your company information with Companies House. You should always consider working with an accountant and ideally a bookkeeper. You know, they don't have to be really expensive, but somebody who knows numbers, who can kind of advise you on your business structure a little bit and what you're spending and kind of help put that structure in place is really, really helpful. Often we find, you know, people might have their mum doing it for a while, their accounts or their bookkeeping, which is great. Always good to have an expert as well. Registering for corporation tax with HMRC is really important, and opening a company bank account. It can kind of really help you feel like things are separate and quite important to keep personal and business finances separate as well. Application and registration for VAT. You don't have to do that initially, but you do have to register if you exceed the VAT threshold, which is £85,000. Often businesses will start not registered for VAT, and your accountant will usually advise you when you need to do that. You should, you know, as you start out, there are lots of things to think about, and you mostly would be thinking about lots of creative stuff, but really thinking about your contract and your agreements that you might want to get in place with suppliers or stockists or manufacturers. You know, at the beginning, you don't need to put lots of big legal documents, but even just having kind of bullet points that you agree with the people that you're working with by email can be really important for referring back to or for kind of upholding agreements with each other. Intellectual property is a really important thing to think about. Intellectual property has a few different sections. So you have trademarks, you have patents, you have copyrights and design rights. We would particularly look at trademarks. So trademarks and design rights are the main things that you would focus on in the fashion industry. The trademark is really important because that is the thing that is your name, that's your company, that's your brand. And in key territories, that's something to think about registering as soon as you can, particularly in China. We won't go into all the legal bits and pieces. There's lots of advice that you can find, but in China, there's a slightly different way of operating. And it's really great if you own your trademark first, rather than having to kind of fight for it later down the line. Not that that always happens, but it's a great thing to be thinking about. We popped set up payroll and consider your employment contracts. That's probably something that's a bit further down the line and something that your accountant would advise you on again. But again, if you're working with somebody or if you're setting up with a partner perhaps, which is always a really fantastic thing to do, if you have somebody who's a bit more business minded and somebody who's a bit more creative, that can be a brilliant duo to set up a business. And you should always have some kind of agreements in place. Again, even if it's kind of bullet points that you've both agreed to or signed, it doesn't have to be a big legal piece of work that's very expensive, but setting up what everybody expects from a partnership, what everybody expects from a working relationship can be really, really useful. You should also consider business insurance, director and employer liability. They're kind of the basic things to think about. And then we just wanted to signpost, because there's a brilliant toolkit called the Alliance Fashion and Manufacturing Toolkit. You can find it if you Google. It's something that we created quite a long time ago in collaboration with a few different partners, UKFT and Nesta. But although it's dated, it is full of really, really helpful information, from creating dockets and invoices to how you work with factories, to template agreements for working with manufacturers. And it's a really kind of practical, helpful piece of information. And that leads into the presentation that Anna's now going to give you. Anna, I think.
Yes, here. I'm going to talk to you about sales. And you can see from this slide that we're talking about the physical, but also digital sales. And when I talk about sales, it's about really, you might decide to sell directly to the consumer, or you might sell to your followers on social. But I want to concentrate more if you decide to sell what we call wholesale. So it's the buyers of department stores and multi-brand boutiques. So if you imagine London, obviously, it's a fantastic story, because it's not only obviously the department store and the buyers for the multi-brand boutique, but it's also the e-tailers and the e-commerce. So from Selfridges, Harrods, Harvey Nichols, Liberty, Fenwick, but also as multi-brand, Browns, Matches, Dover Street Market, Machinery, and so there are a few things that I would like to show you on the next slide that I advise you to do, especially because this department store and this e-commerce, they sort of stock and buy big brands, but actually they look at young designers and emerging designers very, very often, because that makes their point of difference. Otherwise, they all look very much the same. And so there are fantastic stories, from McQueen to Christopher Kane, to Richard Quinn, to others that immediately sold their graduate collection. So you're not that far, but it looks like a big mountain to look at. And so what I advise is to try to divide it in three phases. The before, which is what you can do now about your collection, about the prices, about the line sheets, but also what you need to know when you talk to the buyers, and then after. And I always put the three, and they're the three equally important, because unfortunately, although you studied in an art school, the big difference is that in the fashion industry, they ask you to be an entrepreneur, and your work does not stop when your pen drops, but it is about producing, financing, delivering, and also following up your sales. So next slide, please. Here we go. Thank you, Julie. This is about editing in your collection, and that is one of the things that I think are the most important one. And you can do it by yourself, but you can also ask a friend, a stylist, someone quite cruel and frank to help you, because you don't need to tell your story all at once. It's much better to have a focused, concise, dynamic collection that really works, where top and bottoms, where silhouettes work. And what I also advise is to give a few options, so that, because buyers can buy in a different way. And in fact, it's really important for the buyers also to put their point of view and to talk to you and to communicate. And in fact, one of the important things that I would like you to sort of take away from what I'm talking to you today is that the buyer is not the enemy, it's not that big. It's someone who really likes the collection, and you want to collaborate with them because they would like to buy it, and they're trying to see how it can fit in price and in look and with the rest of the things that they buy. So look at sort of editing, look at the quality. Quality is really important, because especially now in a digital world where they can really not touch your collection, not seeing, but also when they will finally be able to do it. And if there is a piece that is really badly made, unless it's really important for your collection, don't show it. Or if you want to show it, at least show something that is well made, that comes maybe from the factory that where you're going to produce, so that you can show the quality and that you are realizing that the quality of that particular sample is on the quality sample. Then pricing. I could sort of speak for hours about pricing, because obviously it is the most difficult thing. So I will try just to say a few things. First, industry practice is you should put all your costs from the label to the fabric, to the manufacturing, all in one Excel sheet. And then you should double that. After that, that should be your price. But you also need to look at the industry and see where that particular piece of clothing sits next to. Looking at your family of designers, either aspirational or your peer, and see how it fits. So sometimes you can adjust that, and you can make something a bit more expensive or lower the price, because it's an impossible price. I always talk about pricing everything, because you will be surprised, especially because your creativity is what you're really selling, and people are trying to get to their stores, is sell, price everything, even your hangers or your presentation, your back wall, whatever you have, because they're also thinking about their windows, they're thinking about the experience that they're creating in the stores. Sexy numbers is because there is a lot of mental maths that we're asking the buyers to do. And so numbers that finish with 0, with 5 are much easier. You have to imagine that they have to think immediately at their retail price, and they translating it in euros, in yens, in dollars, and you have to make their life easier. And that is quite a lot of the sales technique, is about making the life as easy as possible for the buyers, which is also comes to the point of when you're talking to them and someone is selling, or you're selling with them, and it's obviously not digital or is not on a Zoom, knowing your prices by heart will look so professional. And I can tell you that people that like me have a big experience in sales, you end up knowing a lot. And so when you sort of 8500 prices by heart, just because it comes naturally. So if you have a collection of 15 pieces, you should definitely know them by heart. And the other thing is, don't be emotional about your prices. Don't start with an apology. And if that helps, just think a bit at it as a number. The buyers will always ask you what we call the wholesale price. So that is what you need to quote, which is different from the retail price, or if you are also selling direct to the consumer. Because what you need to think is that the store will either sort of put a markup of 2.50 to 320. So 250 would be sort of Europe, 320 is America and USA, which means that your price would be sort of needs to be competitive, but also similar to what you sell to direct to consumer. Next slide. Now there are many tools you need to sell, but the most important one is the line sheets, especially because really now is the one thing that both digitally and physically people use to buy. They put circles, they put numbers, and so to have a very cool and easy to work on line sheet is really important. So I want to thank Palmer Harding who allowed me to share this their line sheet, which is for the past winter collection. So first thing, have your brand name. For instance, now you're looking at this and you don't know which designer is. So put your brand name, your contacts, your email, the season in every piece of paper. And not so many times I had emails or buyers coming around with a line sheet with no designer's name. And so remember to do that. Second thing that it's important to have in the line sheet is your sales term. At the point of where you are as a graduate, the buyers will expect for you to ask sort of 30% deposit, which will help you in production and help you start buying the fabrics and start your business. On the other hand, you might be advised, or at least I would advise you, to give them about 30 days to pay for the balance, so that on one hand you trust them, they give you the money up front to do your collection, and you trust them that they want to see it arriving in the store, seeing that it's what they thought that they had ordered, and then try to have the first sales and pay. Third point is delivery dates. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Don't say, oh, I'm delivering on the 15th of January. The industry is used to have a 3 months the sort of delivery dates. So usually it is the January, March for the summer collection, and then the June, July, September for the summer collection. Maybe you want to do different drops, but remember that you can give yourself a bit of room for that. Now, if we can have the next slide, and here you see sort of that is the collection, and the next slide goes into details. So next slide, please. And here is again Palmer Harding, and it's about a shirt. And so I liked this line sheet because it's got everything. You have the code that will be easy for production, which is different for every single item and every single color item. Then you have a name. That shirt is called Grand Gesture. And it's something that will help you on storytelling and on telling the collection, and also for the buyers to remember. Then you have the color. So and it's really helpful here to have the 3 photographs of the colors rather than having an enormous amount of colors or just the names of the colors without seeing them. And then the sizing. You can see here that Palmer Harding has a long choice of and range of sizes. Usually you should start with sort of 8, 10, and 12, small, medium, and large. But this is obviously a very sort of inclusive collection. The composition is incredibly important for sustainability, for the American department stores that have different codes and different taxation according to what product you enter the market. Then you have the wholesale price, and then the retail price, or the recommended retail price. The nice thing that I liked about this is that for every single garment, they have a little video. And it's a simple video, but it shows you that it's very simple in a sense, even to sell digitally. The girl is wearing the shirt in blue. All the different colors have different trousers and bottoms, and you've seen the fitting. So next slide. So a little word about merchandising. This is obviously something more important when we go back to a very physical sales. But here you see Merica Transu and how she managed to do a merchandising that helped the buyers. It is storytelling, but it is also simplifying. Everything is divided in blocks. Everything is very airy. Nothing is repeated as well. So if I want a jacket in the color of the last blue outfit to the right, I might ask it, but I don't have a crammed rail. I immediately see what the collection is about. And I can also head immediately to the print I like and maybe say no to something I don't like. The other thing that I put trouser hanger is that is also very nice, that the hangers are all visually in the same line, which really helps and doesn't distract. Here we were in LA, and so the hangers are very light, and probably we could have much better that, but it's very, very nice, the sort of the light. And also what I said about the color block works also on the prints, works also on color blocks. Just try to do it to simplify the eye. So next slide. There are many things that I could tell you also about the sales, but I thought about two questions that you will ask very quickly when a buyer approaches you or might ask you. And there isn't really a straight answer. But you might be asked exclusivity, which means selling exclusively to a store for a period of time in that town. And it's something you have to consider. There are sort of, obviously, you have to say no to other people. You have to make a choice. So there are things that are difficult. But at the same time, you have to look at various things. First of all, maybe because it's like a marriage or a contract, have a contract for a year, see how it works. And at the same time, sort of continue to speak to other buyers, because obviously, if there is no sales and if it doesn't work, you want to be able to stop it and to go to another retailer, because obviously it didn't work. On the other hand, if it works, it's first of all a great compliment that a good retailer wants to sort of put their marketing, their money, and their expertise and their public behind you. So just look at that, but at the same time, check the sell-through, which means check with the store how much they sell. The sell-through is calculated in percentage. So if you deliver 10 things and 3 are sold, is 30%. If 7 are sold, is 70%. And in the industry, sell-through at the beginning, 30% is very good, but what you want to achieve is about 60-70%. And then the other thing is that sometimes on exclusivity, you can decide that you give them exclusivity to a print or to a color or to part of the collection, so that it leaves you free to open and to sell to other stores. Other times you can give exclusivity to a boutique for all the boutiques, or to a department store to only department stores. So that is another way to handle that. And then the next slide, I will talk to you about sale or return. There are many words for sale or return, but it is when a store likes your collection and says you can put it in the store, and but they don't buy it, and so you at the end take the risk. If it's your graded collection, you're going to lose your only samples. If it is your selling samples, you're losing your samples. So usually you have to produce that collection that you give to the store. So, and you have no guarantee to sell it. So that is something you have to consider. But obviously it gives you great exposure, because the fashion world is also made of leaders and followers, and by dropping a name, you might prove that to other stores that you have fantastic stockists. And but in the budget you have to put it as an advertising cost, because there is no commitment and no assurance that you are buying. But on the other hand, you can negotiate a different payment from the buyers. You can, for instance, negotiate that they pay you at the end of the month 50% of the retail when they sold, which also can help you on your cash flow. The last point that I wanted to sort of point out about sale or return is the returns. So if they don't sell anything, they will return you the merchandise and your collection. And obviously, if this is in London, it's not a problem. It will cost you just to go and pick them up. But obviously, if you have this agreement with a store in LA, that is a completely different story, because the industry story is really very much that you pay the store will pay the collection to get to the store, but then any merchandise that is not sold will be paid by the designer. And then we're going to the last slide, which is after sales. And this is really important, and it's important also for the entire sort of community of designers. From sort of is the communication with the buyers, the honesty is if you had finally this confirmation and the buyers have sent you their numbers and the order is confirmed, and you should be able to ask to have the 30% deposit so that you can start production. Obviously, if something goes wrong, and you should always give it back, because that is something sort of a loyalty and something that will allow other designers that can produce to receive again this deposit. Also, that you have to look at your production capability. Maybe you were very successful and you sold too much. That is the time, those 15 days after the sales, before you send your order confirmation, that is when you consolidate your sales. You decide that maybe you sold only 2 jackets and it's incredibly expensive to have just 2 jackets. And that is the only time when you can really cancel those items. Being careful, because sometimes that is the only thing that the buyers liked. And so he might also do on his counterpart, cancel your order. It's the time when you're looking at financing your order and seeing if you can do it. And again, if you sold too much and you cannot finance it, this is the time when honestly you can talk to the buyers and say, what about selling, waiting a season again. Again, agreement on terms. Don't wait for then to start saying that you need the 30% deposit. That is the time you should ask for the 30% deposit when you're doing your order, and then just confirm it. But don't start talking about it just in the moment of the confirmation. And then communication, as I said, it is a partnership. And so any problem you have, if there is a fabric that is not there, if there is a style that is not come out well, just talk to the designer, to the buyers, try to find a solution. Sometimes they bought a jacket, you cannot deliver the bottoms. Maybe there is another fabric you can do it. Maybe you can give them a discount, but really look at it as a partnership and not just something that you can sort of put your head in the sand and forget. And then once your order has arrived to the store, you have sort of is industry practice to call the store or email them every 2 weeks at the end of the month to see how the sale goes. And also to ask about the client, if they did a window, who they put you next to, and have all the feedback that will help you design the next collection. And this is the end. And if you want to sort of ask some questions to Julia, Katie, and me, and Judith, here we are.
Here we are, Team BFC.
So I timed it for 15 minutes. So I hope I didn't.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. We've got a few minutes left for questions. So, Dom, can you bring on Yi Yuan to ask their question? Is the moment where does the technology let us down? Fab. Hello. No sound as yet. There we go. Hello. Hello. We can't actually hear you. Let me just check with Dom. Dom, are you there? Is the microphone switched on?
Hi.
Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hi, hello. So I'll ask a question. Is it really necessary to hire the in-house photographer? Is it really helpful for branding or marketing? Because I am studying in London College of Fashion and fashion photography. So usually we will have a question like how we to help the brand to set the tone or to do the photography for the campaign. And I think the question how to be the freelance or how to be the in-house photographer. So that's my question.
Yes, I can answer to that. I think that the designer gain a lot from having a real point of view. Obviously, you need to be very much in tune with them, because you're not just shooting hopefully one collection, but as a photographer you help them evaluate their brand. So in a sense, yes, I would say it would be great, but you just need to look at it as a partnership also, because very much at the beginning for a designer it would be very difficult to pay you. For what concerns in-house photography, if we're talking not to graduates, but for designers and for brands that are more evolved and have stockists, yes, it's something that they're looking at also to reduce cost and to be very flexible. But unfortunately, in the budget of designers, there are sort of other things that come first. So I wouldn't say that is something that is first in the list on a designer budget, but definitely in the digital world, it is becoming something important. I hope I answered.
Thanks, Anna. We had another question that's come through. So as someone who's moved out of the UK, moved back home, how would you go about finding and reaching out to buyers? Anna, probably start with you again, and then I might turn to Katie and Julia.
Yes, it's a difficult question, and it wouldn't make a difference if you are in the UK or if you are moved abroad. I would say the first thing I would do is look at the sort of other designers, your family of designers, I call it, the designers that you aspire to, and see where they sell, and then try to build that around a brand that you like. Otherwise, you can also just look at stores, and you have also different ways. So on one hand, go to websites, go to Google and see where the designers, sometimes the designers put their stockist, there are sort of different sites where you can find that, or you can also inquire about stores, and you can look at sort of Farfetch, for instance, has a possibility of looking at all the 400 boutiques in the world that they sell. And so you can look at it on the both sides. It's a bit of a marriage of who you want to be next as a designer and which boutiques represent you. Also because it's the way that you are advertised, is the stores that you are in.
And we were talking earlier this morning, Katie and Julia, about the exposure you would get even just by applying to our initiatives, even in the shortlisting. That gets you in front of those judges.
Yes,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the other thing to really kind of consider when you're graduating or when you've graduated is what you want to do first, because obviously, you know, Anna said maybe your graduate collection might get bought or might get interest, but we also see, you know, the designers that we work with and the businesses that come through our initiatives. If you can get commercial experience first, you know, even just for a year or two after you've graduated, working in-house for somebody else, it's really invaluable to give you a, you know, not just an understanding of all the different, you know, different things that go around running a brand and you know, thinking about design a bit more commercially, but also in terms of the networks that you build up, the people that you get to know, the exposure that you have to those kind of people. So always, you know, where possible, get that commercial experience working with, you know, people in the industry, getting a job with, you know, a small or a larger fashion business that's already established, and learn everything from there, because what you will be able to take into your business from that is really will give you so much strength in terms of the commercial understanding of how you are an entrepreneur, as Anna said earlier.
I think that's, yeah, really, really good advice. So I would strongly encourage that. Well, I don't think we've got any other questions, and we are technically out of time. Can you believe how quickly that went? But thank you all. Thanks, colleagues. We really appreciate your insights, and I know that all the students watching this will find this absolutely invaluable, just to understand those next steps. And I guess I'll see you on our next team call. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. Oh, we've had a nice note of thanks. There's some fan mail in the chat as well, which is lovely. Thank you for those who are giving their thanks in the chat. Thank you for everyone coming to Graduate Preview Day. This is the last session, sad. Ready for a cup of tea. It's been a great day though. So thank you to everyone for being here. Do look online. All the videos will be available on YouTube. So even if you want to recommend these to friends to look at, then please do so. We really, really appreciate your involvement in everything we do, and we're here for you. So good luck, graduates. Good luck entering the industry. I'm sure you will all have exciting and very fulfilling careers in the fashion industry, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.